Well, you're so kind. Please, thank you, thank you, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a thrill to be back in this all-American city, and you are. I had the honor of, I guess it was about 20 years ago, speaking at the beginning of the Aiken 2020 plan, a long-range planning initiative. And you know, I've had the privilege of speaking at a lot of places and events, but that is so distinctive in my mind. And I think it was just a wonderful merger of mayoral leadership. Fred and Lee, great to be with you, and Odell, and talk about that in just a minute. And but just the energy and interest of citizens coming together in an evening wonderfully and profoundly because they were interested in wisely guiding their city's future. And I spoke to a kickoff a master plan in Miami, Florida, and other places, which was wonderful. But there's something about that night in Aiken these many years ago that is with me so vividly. And the same is true tonight. Thank you for coming and giving of your time, and I congratulate the mayor and the leadership for pulling this together. I've had the privilege of working with your mayors and city managers, and Aiken has always represented in many fields, but a level of excellence in South Carolina. It's a beautiful city, all-American city, wise, foresighted, honorable leadership is a great model. And working with Leslie Price, my dear friend, for many years. I told her tonight she hadn't changed in 35 years, however long I've known her, and watched her boys grow up and become the wonderful young men they are, and Gail Diggs, and many others. I've got former colleague in the legislature, Marshall Kane, here. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and another great leader from your community, and two of my favorites in the General Assembly, Bill Clyburn and Nikki Setzler. And I'm from far away, you know, I go up to Columbia working on things, but those are just two go-to people that you know, the former mayor of Boston, Tom Menino, who was a dear friend, died a few years ago, used to say he loved his work because every morning he could go to work and do something to help people. And that's the way I feel about Bill and Nikki. They're completely nonpartisan, bipartisan, as they should be. They just go up to Columbia trying to help people in Aiken County and their district, help the people in South Carolina. So there's a real wonderful ethic of civic and political leadership here that I find very inspiring. One of the things, someone asked me how am I enjoying retirement, and my wife will quickly tell you that he has not retired. And I go to work early in the morning working on important things. And one of the things I'm proud to be working on is with the College of Charleston, and humbled and honored to say the Joseph P. Riley Jr. Center for Livable Communities. And one of the things, and the director of the Institute would be here today, except that sadly they had to put their family dog down this afternoon, and we all have been through that. Kendra Stewart, but I'm enjoying working with them as the college is seeking to serve communities throughout South Carolina in helping find ways to become more livable and more successful. And that is exactly what is happening here tonight. When I was elected mayor, and when I ran for mayor a little over 40 years ago, There were two major challenges that the city faced. One was, and the reason I ran for mayor, was that the city was at a crossroads, and either it was going to come together with leadership that built bridges between the races, or it would be a polarized election that would divide the city. And so that's why I ran, to bring our community together, to open our city to everyone's participation. And we didn't run anybody out. We didn't say, now, you all used to be in charge, you got to go now. It just, figuratively, we just put more chairs around the table of governance and brought in people of color who didn't have the chance to participate before, but didn't give any body language anyone had to leave. You know, we just all working on this together, and that goal of racial progress was never far from my mind and isn't now. And the other major challenge was our downtown. I grew up in Charleston, and I remember the downtown when it was the heart, when it was the bustling, it was the shopping center of coastal lower South Carolina. It was lively and vital and exciting. And so we started working hard to restore our downtown, which is largely King Street. It's more than that, but King Street is what everybody knew and was the term. And it's hard work, and not uncomplicated work. But people would say, why are you spending all the time on that? What's the big deal about Main Street, King Street? And you make the argument, well, it's building the tax base, and it does, and re-energizing a tax base, and the infrastructure's there. You don't have to build any new roads for it, you know, or things like that. It's there. So you invigorate the tax base, which adds to the benefit of every citizen. It creates jobs, more places for people to work, and the wonderful thing about American Free Enterprise is that just 2 and 2 equals 7, more people coming together and new ideas and new energy, and that's an important reason. But I think over that even it's the city's heart. It's a public realm. It's a great thing about main streets when they're active. It's you have this wonderful renewed civicness. People, you know, the eye contact, the elbow contact, the mutual energy, and then the diversity of people, old and young and new to town and generations been in town, and all different kinds of people there active. And that's like almost like vitamin pills that you're getting. It's something that happens. It's hard to explain, it's hard to define, but what it is that's a part of town that everyone owns. And it's the main street, and it's the parks and all of those public civic spaces. The main street is complicated for a lot of reasons, and of course it's important that for it to have energy, the privately owned properties are reborn or re-energized or repurposed. So we had in the heart of our downtown, in fact it was the day before Christmas, which my wife will remind you, that's when I started my Christmas shopping. But my excuse was the election was the 9th of December, and I was sworn in on the 15th, so I really didn't have a whole lot of time to get ready. But I walked through, I parked behind one of the old retail stores and walked through it to get out onto King Street, Main Street. And I looked up the street. Christmas Eve, no one was on the street. The place, when I was a child, was teeming with life and excitement and energy and commerce. There was no one there. So it was really bleak. And most people thought it was impossible and a waste of time or a pipe dream or whatever. But we had a group of people like you that had a vision of a new downtown and were willing to put their shoulders to the wheel and work to make it happen. And lots of controversy and lots of people against it, and we even had lawsuits and, rancorous meetings. We had one city council meeting because we were proposing this project, Charleston Place, and everybody knew it would ruin Charleston. I mean, people thought it ruined Charleston, they did. And one guy, really, it was so heated that I took a recess at the middle of a council meeting because we'd been at it a long time. And lucky for me, we had a city council member who was a longshoreman. And so he looked like a longshoreman, he was built like a longshoreman. So I'm, facing the crowd like that, and it's a recess, so I'm over here chit-chatting with somebody, and this guy that was just unraveled starts coming around the side to punch my lights out. And if he had connected, I wouldn't be here now. But fortunately, the longshoreman saw what was going on, so when I turned around, this big, beefy longshoreman had this guy in a bear hug with his legs, flailing about and all that. But I mean, it was very controversial. And it's controversial because it's not uncomplicated, and because it's change, and that there is some people fear more people, and other things, but we never quit. And the first thing we did, which is so important, was develop a clear master plan. It's a battle plan. It's a business plan. It's kind of normal way you go about things. You study it carefully. It's not you scratch your head and say, let's get one of them things that somebody else has got. It's an ecosystem that's sick. And so you need to restore your ecosystem and the restorative agents that will make your ecosystem healthy and thriving again. So that's what we did. We worked hard to develop a strategic master plan in which we had confidence. It made sense. Just like, as I said, a battle plan. The enemy's over there. Okay, this is how we're going to go about it, and this is how we're going to win this battle. And that's how you have to do it. So our strategic plan called for a catalytic agent, a keystone, an energizer, if you will, which was not an unusual combination for my city or your city or any city, and that is in a downtown that's lost its energy, one good catalytic agent is a hotel. And the reason that's good is, first of all, it's a residential use. So there are people there for 18 hours of the day, and they're living there. They're not permanent residents, but they're occupying it. So that means they're out on the streets or in the sidewalk. They've got a wallet or a pocketbook that's available to purchase things if they need, and it's like a parched lawn, and you irrigate it, and surprisingly, it looks revived and green again. So a hotel is a catalytic agent in a master plan for downtown is not odd, it's perfectly natural, and it's oftentimes the necessary first step. We worked hard on each piece being put together that would be leveraged and connect with the other. And you have to think through carefully. You need to avoid mistakes, and whatever kind of business plan or whatever it is, you look at what you're doing and second guess yourself. Is this the right thing to do? Is that the right thing to do? You need to put the infrastructure in there. For hours, we had to build parking facilities and redo the streets and a whole lot of other things, but all pursuant to that vision, that business plan, to put it together. Design is so important. You've got good city manager, great city manager and team here, and to look carefully at the design of the buildings and how they address the street and the sidewalk. You know, the urban model is very different than the suburban model. And not that one is superior to the other, they're different. But we have a lot of experience with the suburban model, which is there's surface parking and then the business establishment. And in a downtown, you need the opposite, because you need the building to give energy to the street. And it was interesting, our great developer that we had working with us, it came in after the first developer couldn't put it together. This great developer's experience had been in building shopping malls, and very successful ones around the country. And we laid out the plan and all of that, but they, the brick they had picked out for the hotel, I didn't think and we didn't think was right for Charleston. And so we called that to their attention, and the shopping the owner was a little taken aback because no one had ever questioned his choice of brick for something. But what it was that I realized in the inside of the hotel, they had the most beautiful materials, and didn't, you know, they weren't pinching pennies, but it was like their mentality was at a shopping mall, what you're looking for is what's inside the mall. You know, outside the mall, you just park your car, whatever, and that's often somewhat nondescript. And inside is when, you know, the light bulb goes on. So, of course, in a city, you need both. And so we worked that out. And one interesting, it's a small detail maybe, but the details in this are so important. The conference center, which was on the second floor, and the convention space, banquet, you know, place and all of that. And every town is different, but this is what ours on the second floor. And they had the pre-assembly space where you have a cup of coffee or drink before the meetings and all like that, near the elevators. So you get off the elevator and you're right there. So on the street, on the second story of this building on the street was the kitchen and all of that. So they would be either no windows or phony windows. And I told them that you know, that's not what you do in a city, because even on the second level, you want to be communicating to the street. You know, that this is a real place, and there's a mutual energy. So they agreed to move things around. And the pre-assembly space is, of course, now over King Street. And any of you ever been there to Southeastern Wildlife, anything like that, it's just a bustling space, but you look down, you see the street, and then on the street, you look up, and you see the lights on or people in there, and there's a connection. It's a real space. So, you know, details like that are very important. And then what we did is we kept persevering, and you know, there are lots of complications and funding and all of that. And then when you get one piece in place, then you look at your plan and figure out what the next piece is. And then you put that into place. And you never let up until maybe eventually there's enough energy where it can just, you know, move on its own. And then the allies we had, one of the allies we had was the historic Charleston Foundation. And we have a preservation organization in Charleston. This is one, very, very prominent one. But what they understood, and other people were saying, it's going to hurt preservation and all like that, it was what Historic Charleston Foundation understood was to keep buildings in shape or restore buildings, you needed the energy on the street. You needed the economy. That's how, because we had lots of historic buildings, built before the 1920s, lining up and down King Street, and they were falling down, and there was nothing going on. So the way to energize those is to have the heart of the city, have that catalytic agent, and then moving the force up. And so, how many buildings, I don't know, 75, 100 buildings probably have been restored on King Street, almost all by the private sector, because the street got its energy back, and then the free enterprise system took over. Charleston, our King Street, I'm proud to say, is now listed in the 10 great shopping streets in America, with Fifth Avenue and Michigan Avenue and Chicago and Rodeo Drive and Los Angeles, and one that some years ago was a poster child of a declining, almost dead downtown. And the people, my father was a self-made businessman. He had a real estate insurance company, and one of the men that worked for him, this was a long time ago, would walk to King Street every Saturday and stand in front of Walgreens. It was Walgreens on King Street, and the family didn't have a car. A lot of people didn't have cars. This is way back then. And my father said that this gentleman, we called him Coco, a great guy, his wife gave him $1, a kind of an allowance to go spend on King Street that Saturday. And but what he would do, he would go there just to watch the people. That was his entertainment, right at the corner of Wentworth and King Street. When we brought a Saks Fifth Avenue to King Street, I told the story of Emil Comer, Coco, and just how I knew he'd be out there if he was alive, watching people and being energized. And then it's generational, all generations. So just yesterday, seems like longer than that, yesterday we had our grandchildren had for some reason, school wasn't open, I guess a teacher work day. So Charlotte took a third grader and his friend, had them in tow for the day. So the third grader's friend, they live on James Island, what the third grader's friend wanted to do, and we live downtown, is to walk from our house up King Street. This is a third grader, and have lunch at Subway. I met him at Subway, but that's so interesting to me that a 8-year-old picks up on it. It's the energy, the storefronts, the merchandise, the people, the activity, the people, place, and then yesterday, and she after that then took them to New Park that we have in the downtown that the kids love, and so if you work hard to have a place where a kind of elderly man could find some energy and comfort on a Saturday, and the third grader and his friend feel energized and safe and happy being there as well. The dividends of working to restore a main street are huge. It's happening across America. Countries doing that. Millennials are attracted to urban experiences. High-tech companies, they're moving into Charleston, are attracted to that. It's really more natural experience. It gives people a lift. It makes them feel a part of a much bigger and more robust whole. So in conclusion, I commend you for being here. I commend the chair and the mayor and the committee and city council and members of the legislature, those who are supporting this. And I want to assure you that you're on the right track. That is the future in this lovely, classic South Carolina city. Beautiful in its physical form, beautiful in its landscape, and just a lovely part of South Carolina that all the energy that you put into visioning a great new future for your Main Street, that will return dividends hundreds and hundreds of fold, and it will have begun with you. Thank you for your commitment to your city, and thank you for the honor of having me visit with you tonight.